That's over.
Yeah, there's quite a heritage that all of us have with Grandpa and his families under him. Mm-hmm. It's quite the. Do you call that a legacy kind of a thing? Mm-hmm. And it's just fun to almost reminisce some of the times. Like on Ogden High, he built a lot of the homes in Roy.
Mm-hmm. He built the church.
Yeah, the church, the 8th and 3rd Ward.
The homes in
him and Purser. It was Gene Purser and Grandpa that built that church.
Mm-hmm. I think your mom or somebody said the reason why Grandpa was so smart, he could do a ruler and a pencil. Then
most people could with all their fancy. Yeah. He just had a kind of a second sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We always marvel at the cabin and think, how did Grandpa build this?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Look at it and say, how does this all work? I mean, that much weight holding a little log supporting it all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The one reason we can tell Grandpa built that cabin is because there's no closets. Except for in that one bedroom, right?
One bedroom has a closet.
Downstairs, yeah.
But he liked to get things done quick, and so I think closets were kind of an unnecessary addition. And he didn't like to do finish work, so he'd have his brothers come do the finish work on houses he built. But he'd get them built quick. And
so a little side note on that. Back in the olden days, closets, and it was room tax.
Oh, really?
And so
that's interesting.
A lot of the very old
I didn't know that.
Never had closets because that was an extra room, and they charged you per room, and that was a room. Anything that had 4 doors or four walls and a door was a room.
Oh, that's good to know. You know everything.
Or Cliff Clavin from Cheers. Any questions?
Yeah, any questions?
No,
this is bad.
We had it really good. We had the best aunt and uncle living there. Lou was always so pleasant and so welcoming and such a good cook. And I'd come up with some idea or suggestion or something, and she'd go, "That's an interesting idea."
Does she still do that?
Yes, she will never take sides. Tell her that she could be a great politician.
Randy, look in your book again and see if there's some notes that you've missed, because this is your chance. So open your book.
Well, have you got one in mind?
I'm trying to think.
I think I've covered most of it.
Open your book and see.
Well, I remember going over to your mom's house, and I'd say, "My mom's not making me cookies," and she'd make me the best cookies, like every week. Oh, loved her cookies.
Yes, she did, didn't she?
Yes.
I didn't know you did that too, because I go to my mama doesn't feed me.
Yeah, I've heard that story.
Yeah, mine was just, my mama doesn't feed me. Mama would make me food.
But yeah, you're right. I did have a couple. There's, we're making it sound like you're mischief and stuff like that, but he was like I think back then it was the Sunday school president or whatever they and
superintendent
maybe superintendent was what it was called back then, and he got tired of these long-winded meetings and stuff, and so if you remember Russ Tubb, gas station, and good friend of Wes Woolsey, the police chief. Anyway, he told Russ, he says, in the next meeting, he says, exactly at this time, I don't care who's talking or what they're saying, you get up and say the closing prayer. and Russ did it. But yeah, it kind of shocked people. But but he was my senior companion, for home teaching. I loved going with Ray. So he was irreverent and mischievous and everything, but a very spiritual man at the same time. So, and you could always trust him, no matter what. All of us in this room have.
Okay, you have to tell, since you brought up Tubbs, you have to tell the story about the theater and Tubbs in the audience.
Oh, you want to tell it?
Okay, I've got it secondhand. I wasn't there. But it was a R-rated movie.
It was a movie. It was a 3D movie called The Stewardesses. Now, that's one reason why no one in our family runs for office, because we'll be labeled as pornographers. Because that's how the press works nowadays. But anyway, with that, go ahead.
And anyway, going to the theater, and so he got on the PA.
Kids, tell who this guy is that was going to be there.
Russ Tubbs was part of the bishopric and also a city councilman.
And so Ray gets on the PA system for the dome and says, would please come to the ticket office. And he didn't come, so he got on the PA system again and says, would Councilman Tubbs please come to the ticket office? And he still didn't come, and they got on again and says, did he say Bishop?
Yeah, he said,
I think he said Bishop. Would Bishop Russ Tubbs please come to
and
Go ahead.
So, and during all this time, his wife is just just dying.
And so they went out the door. I can't remember if it was before the movie started or after it started, but they left.
He's in too, right?
Oh yeah. Well, didn't they say one time, goes, Tubbsy, I know you're out there.
That's so funny.
Well, I always considered LaRue as my beautiful aunt. She was and she was also athletic. I didn't realize that. I remember when I was young going to watch her play softball. Do you remember playing softball?
You have to tell me about it. I know it is, but
Yeah, I remember going to a night game, watching you play softball, and I was so impressed. Well, this is long before she.
Hey, LaRue, how old were you when you and Mom started that dance studio? How old were you when you started?
I was still in high school.
So you were a pretty young teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys knew that she was partners with my mom teaching dance.
But we didn't know you were a softball player.
Yeah.
And a skier.
I think I have video of her skiing.
Yeah, she's a pretty good water skier too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
As long as they went one direction.
Yeah.
I remember when LaRue and Ray were dating. I remember going to Grandpa's house one time, and they were down in the basement, had a big fire in the fireplace down there, and you were roasting pine nuts, or you might have been roasting the cones and getting the pine nuts out of them. I can't remember. But I was pretty impressed. I thought you two were a pretty neat couple.
So it's pretty neat heritage that we all...
Yeah. LaRue tried to teach me bookkeeping at one time for the theaters. I just couldn't grasp it, so she finally gave up.
She taught Brianna stuff. She just shook her head at me. Yeah.
Did you remember the accident LaRue was in? Maybe you remember that?
Yeah. I could ride a bike. Motorcycle, I mean.
It was my bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I felt so bad. Because I said, do you want to take it for a ride?
Yeah.
And you said, sure. And you came down
She's going so fast.
Jamie, and you turned the corner, and I thought, watched, oh my gosh, I think I just...
And she drove into barbed wire.
No, she just flipped over on that corner, and she just slid. She was going so
I didn't know how
fast.
to drive it.
Oh, yeah, I felt so bad.
She was blood just pouring out of her mouth.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it yelled you to go call the 911. And I didn't dare move her because I was afraid she might drown on all the blood that was coming out of her mouth.
That was, and you were black and blue for quite a while.
We were gonna do, but
Yeah. So no more riding horses.
no.
Well, I'm out. Oh, you got some more?
Well, I got some more. Are you guys tired yet?
No.
Not at all.
Randy, are you really out?
Yep. Hey, you got to remember, I'm the young guy that probably, Brianna remembers a lot of things that I own Dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Across the street from your house in Roy, there was that grove of trees. And in the winter, pheasants would roost in the branches of the trees. And every once in a while I hear this boom. And Ray would come walking out of the trees with a pheasant for dinner.
Did he eat it or?
Yeah.
Oh, they did. Oh.
He went hunting in his front yard.
In his front yard, yeah. Which I'm sure was illegal. In city limits.
Raise balls if you don't get caught.
My parents picked up a stray dog at the shop. Dodo.
Oh.
Yeah. Dumb dog. So they named it Dodo.
Was it German Shepherd?
No, it's just a little mongrel.
It's what you call a sooner.
A sooner?
Sooner be a dog than a cat.
But that was a terrible dog. Mom would be visiting with someone and come up and all day long it would run around their garden. The garden was a full-size lot. And it would just run as hard as it could. And on the corners, it had banked up the dirt. It would run so hard around and it was just a really dumb dog. And, but Mom and Dad felt sorry for it, and they come home from the shop one night, and Ray says, Dodo got out in the field, so I shot it. And they didn't feel too bad about that. But the next day, Dad found blood on our grass. So if Ray really shot him in our yard and then threw him over the fence.
That's how things are done out on the ranch. Remember what's that one politician that shot her dog?
Dangerous stuff.
Where did they get the dog?
I just showed up at the hobby shop one day.
Yeah.
They went over to the snack bar at the drive-in and got some hot dogs to feed it, and it decided that was home, so it stayed there.
Is there another dog story? Fish?
What is it?
A dog and there's a fish involved.
A fish?
Backyard.
I don't remember.
I don't remember. You ought to tell that story.
I don't know the details
Oh.
except it was Dodo,
No,
but someone,
it was
Dad,
a white dog. The German Shepherd that he loved.
Oh. I know he used
Dad
to.
would throw over, wasn't it that dog? He would throw over minnows, the fishing.
Shelley we're talking about?
Shelly, I think, and Shelly would go in the house and just be stinking all the time. They'd give her
I do remember something about that because they were complaining about where is that smell coming from, and it was your dad throwing.
I think it was Shelly.
I can't remember the dog.
It was probably Shelley because Dad loved that dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was always in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He even warmed the milk
Dodo never
dog
went in
in
the
the
house.
wintertime.
I remember one was scary, and walking home from the municipal, if it was loose,
Oh,
and it was Grandpa's dog, wasn't it?
Might have
It was
been.
Ranger.
Ranger? Was it Grandpa's?
It wasn't a bad dog.
But to me, it was probably scared me. But was it Grandpa's?
okay, we're taking a sidetrack here. If you're talking about rain, that dog was so good to us. Mom was teasing Randy and I once in a wading pool, splashing water on us, and Ranger didn't like that. So Ranger just hit her from behind, and she went face first into the pool. And another time I was with this kind of hoodie guy that lived in our neighborhood, and we had our little 10-cent slingshots. We went up by the park behind municipal school, and kids are up there playing softball. And so we were down in the weeds in the field shooting pea gravel at these guys playing softball. And pretty soon they figured out that we were out there and what we were doing. So they started hurtling these big boulders at us, and they were just coming down all around. We were going to get killed. And Ranger wasn't a trained dog, but I says, Ranger, sick 'em. And Ranger just took off after those kids. We cleared that park. And then we patrolled around the school to make sure we got everyone. There's something here I want to tell you. Oh, checking out at the snack bar. Ray and I would be up at the head of the candy counter with the, collecting the money from people that were buying things. And, people bring their stuff up, and I'd be counting at $35, $70, $50, and somebody walked up with a pizza, 4 hamburgers, 4 drinks, and some fries, and he said, it'd be $16, please.
He just guessed.
He did that several times. How do you do that so quick, Ray? I just throw out a price.
Now you got to put all this in context. Our theaters were some of the first ones to ever have like open food.
Oh, yeah.
Because Grandpa and everybody built these big bins where we'd get hamburgers and stuff ready for intermission.
Right.
And the drinks would be ready, and the popcorn would be ready, and the candy was open. And so we probably lost us a little bit on, but we made up for it on our volume. You're getting people back in there fast.
Yeah.
And they did that down at the Cinedome too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they did a lot of innovative things.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever hear the story about Walking Tall? The movie, it was a down in the South.
Yeah, I know the movie.
Yeah, the movie. You know the movie.
I saw the movie.
It's pretty. There's two of them. There's one with Joe Don Baker, and the other one was with somebody else. I can't remember.
The Rock.
The Rock. Yeah, but the first one was the one that I'm talking about now, and that. So Ray and Daryl went down and said, "This is a pretty dang good movie," but it was doing lousy at the box office.
It's terrible business across the nation.
And in the theater business, they'd go down and you'd bid on movies, and so you'd guarantee a certain amount of money. And some of the bigger movies, you actually pay like 90% of your receipts go to the film company. You only keep 10. That's why prices are so high in snack bars. So they can make up for the money they don't make on the movie tickets. But so anyway, this movie wasn't doing any good, so they got it for like 15-20%, Breon? I can't remember. It's just some really low percentage, but they said this is a good movie, and they got it, and they sent out invitations to anybody with a bag. Okay.
So word got out really quick about that movie, and we were just raking in the money.
Inundated, and making a ton off of the film.
I think the producer of the movie called Daryl and says, I was just having nightmares because all the grosses coming in from all over the nation were just so terrible. Then Utah, these big grosses coming in. He says, "What are you doing out there?" And
so Ray and Daryl ended up getting. It's called NATO, National Association of Theater Owners, and they have a big convention every year in Las Vegas. And Ray and Daryl got an award for promoting that movie.
Hey, interesting.
So,
familiar with how many drive-in theaters Grandpa built?
No.
Built the Riverdale Drive-In, and
which was the
first one in Utah.
First one in Utah.
How many screens?
Just
one screen.
One screen?
And I got some pictures. Pictures of the old screen and stuff. If you don't have them.
It was made out of cement?
The whole thing. When the freeway come through and they had to tear it down, they had some big cranes, great big huge steel ball that they just swing into the theater, knocking this chunk by chunk off the screen.
Wow.
But and yet eventually had I think you said the mural on the back of the screen. First it said Riverdale Drive-In Theater, and then they changed it to a mural of Indians overlooking a wagon train.
Yeah. And if you ever find a picture of that, we'd like to get it.
I've seen that. I've seen that, and I think I want to say the early 80s. I don't know. I remember going down there and seeing that.
Yeah.
I'd like to get a copy of that picture. But we called, it was Lionel Gibby that painted it, and we called the Gibbys copy of it, and David Gibby says, "Oh yeah, I've seen that copy, I'll get it for you," but he couldn't find it, so.
So how many total?
What's that?
How many?
3.
3.
Yeah, also had the Sunset, was it?
It was called the Sunset Drive-In up in Pocatello, Idaho.
Oh yeah.
And they had the
Uptown.
and the Uptown.
Oh, Uptown. He didn't build that,
though.
Did own it.
Yeah, but we did own the Uptown out on the.
Went to do baptisms for the dead at the Logan Temple when I was really young, and as we drove by, there was a big cement screen for the drive-in. It wasn't being used, but the driver says, "Oh, that theater."
Oh, I didn't know that in Logan.
I never knew about that.
Oh, so the one in Logan.
Yeah, I don't think he owned it. He just built it for someone, I think.
And didn't the family have a diner up there in Pocatello too called?
Yes, I have the Pocatello. There was the
Polar Bear, the Polar Bear restaurant.
They're right across from the university.
Yeah. I worked as a HR director up in Pocatello for a while, and I got a new president came in, and we're doing a kind of an introduction to the employees. And I said, yeah, and I had to get up and say a little spiel, and I said, yeah, and I says, I've got kind of a connection here to Pocatello. I says, the Sunset Drive-In out on the, edge of town there, and everybody thought that was kind of interesting. And then this new guy gets up and goes, I'd like to expand on what Randy said about that drive-in. He says, some of you in here might have been conceived in that drive-in. And I'm sitting there going, and I'm the HR director, I'm saying, you can't say that.
I got to tell you a story of them building the new screen at the Riverdale Drive-In. The first one was made of concrete, but then the freeway come through and the frontage road took that out. But they built a new screen before that was taken out, so I'm getting ahead of myself here. But the new screen was a big screen, and it was made out of steel trusses and
huge thing,
or whatever you call it.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah, it was huge. But they built it on the ground and then raised it up, I was told, in sections. I'm not sure how that would work. But had a big crane there that was raising the sections up, and the wind was blowing, a really strong wind. Sections were blowing back and forth, and Grandpa was up on top and really high. There's a wood ladder built into the back of it, and I tried to climb up that ladder once. I got about a third of the way up, and I was terrified. I had to go back down. But Grandpa was up on top of it in a windstorm, fastening the cables and the connections on the screen. And brothers that owned, I think it might have been called the Starlight Drive-In, which is where the area where Costco is now in Riverdale. And they come up to watch. And they were so sure that was going to blow over. They said, it's going over. And then they get it stabilized, and they're watching this, and the blowing down. And one of the brothers turned around and looked back over the valley and nudged his brother and says, "Where's our screen?" Their screen had blown down while they were waiting for that.
I was going to say, I've been over there, and I've seen the screen over there so long.
Interesting.
You know about the radio side of it? We eventually made it 2 screens, and the second screen, people will listen to...
No speakers.
No speakers. People just listen to the movie on the radios. And if they didn't want... in their cars.
We had a bunch of little ones that we'd hand out, and then they give us their driver's license to keep or something.
Did we talk about the in-car...
Oh, no.
No, I was going to ask, isn't there a story about the heaters?
Okay. Yeah. Like the Motor View, they'd have propane heaters, a little burner with a tank on it, and you kind of put the burner over your window inside your car, which, you have this flame inside your car. And Grandpa and Daryl do that, and they'd heard about a drive-in theater in Detroit that had forced air heating for a drive-in.
Like you have in your home.
Like just in a home. And so they decided Grandpa would go back and check this out. And Grandpa had several heart attacks and wanted him to go alone. So I was 12 years old and they had me go with him. And we go back to Detroit and we get a taxi to take us out to this drive-in. And what I didn't know is Grandpa hadn't told them we were coming. They didn't know we were coming. And so we were just waiting out in front of the theater, waiting for somebody to come open the theater. And Grandpa told him what he wanted to do, and the guy looked shocked, and he says, well, we do have the forced air heating systems, but it's never worked. He says, I'll show it to you, but it doesn't work. So we went in and had this really big room with all these big equipment, just spotless, just so, but it didn't work. And so Grandpa come back, and Grandpa Daryl and Ray decided, I think we could make it work. And so instead of having one big furnace room, they had multiple furnaces out on the field.
Oh, really?
And then they bought shell casings from Smith & Edwards, the ends off of them, and rolled them together to make the pipes that the hot air would flow through. And then they got tar paper, and they put under the pipe, after they got the pipes put together, they put the tar paper under the pipes, and they had chemicals they would pour in that would create styrofoam. And so the styrofoam was forming. They'd bend the tar paper up and fasten it, so a complete wrapping of styrofoam around the pipes.
Yeah.
They
figure all that out on their own.
Nice warm hot air when you're in your car. You just had this little tube you could put in your window and blow hot. It worked out great, except for people kept breaking the tubes coming out of the ground, and then sand would get in and blow sand into the cars, and so they decided to improve on that. So they went and got some more shell casings and made speaker poles out of them, and had the forced air come up through these poles, and they had smaller hoses coming out of the top. But the problem was the new metal poles cooled the air before it got to the car. But it worked great until people destroyed them by pulling them out. They'd leave them in their window and try to drive off and pull the pipes out.
Kind of like what they used to do with the speakers.
Yeah.
But I thought that was pretty. And doing everything themselves. Grandpa was a big fan of Smith & Edwards. The shingles on the Cinedome were from Smith & Edwards. For some reason, I was at Smith & Edwards. I was talking to one of the Smiths, I think it was, and I told him that my grandfather. He says, "Who is he?" And I says, "Roy Tullis." He says, "Oh, Roy Tullis. Oh, yeah." He said, "I remember one time he came out here and we spent the whole day sorting shingles for the Cinedome." And out in a lot of Smith & Edwards.
It must have been Bert Smith, because he's the owner.
Okay.
Bert was the owner, and then
See, he knows everything.
sorry, my oldest sister married their youngest.
Wow. Okay. What a kid. See, the small world.
It is.
And so, yeah, they had everything that would come in, and Bert was the guy who talked to everybody. He knew everybody, and everyone knew him.
And I had an encounter with Bert not too many years ago. He's still alive. But I was at Smith & Edwards. I was looking at something on a shelf, and I heard somebody behind me say, "Or something? Or help you find something?" And I turned around, and there's this old guy standing there with a suit on. I says, "No, I think I'm okay." And he said, "Okay, just holler if you need anything." He started walking off, and I said, "Excuse me, what's your name?" And he says, "Bert Smith." And I says, "I thought you probably were the owner of this place."
Well, speaking of Smith & Edwards, you're looking at two guys that actually turned down getting a dirt bike to take up to the cabin.
Yeah, Grandpa decided we were on our way to the cabin, and we stopped at Smith & Edwards. He saw those. I think they're tote goats. Maybe.
Yes.
And he decided we ought to have one of those up the cabin.
I like it, just a little teeny motorized.
They were tote goats when I was young, and I thought that might have been a motorcycle, but he was going to buy it for us, and we said, Grandma's not going to like this.
So you're looking at two guys that actually turned down.
You didn't get it.
No, because we feared Grandma.
Talking about Grandma.
Tullis. Should kill him. He was just like spontaneous. He was noted at Denny's. They fought over who got to wait on Grandpa at Denny's.
He was a big tipper?
Yeah.
And they're always concerned about him with his passes, because he'd give those things out like candy.
Passes. He's talking about passes
to the theaters.
We had a big show coming, and we were getting all these passes ready. I think we were selling them or something for special passes, and had all these stacks of passes. And Grandpa walked into the Cinedome and saw these passes, and he grabbed one of the big stacks and walked out. And Lisa Tullis saw him, and he got in his car and drove off, and she jumped in her car to chase after him. And he went to Denny's. He started, when Maddie's closed, he started spending a lot of time at Denny's. Lisa walked into Denny's, and all these people were crowded around Grandpa. And she says, "I want those passes back." He says, "I don't have any passes." And he didn't. He'd given them all away. But he'd give them away to did we say this yet? He'd give the passes to the policeman that would pull him over for. He said, "Well, now let me give you a ticket."
Well, plus he had a badge in his wallet because he was a founding member of the
deputized.
Yeah, the Weber County Sheriff's Posse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, your Uncle Darrell was one of the founding members too of the posse.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So I'm sorry to tell you, lots of stuff went on around here.
Yeah.
I have a question about Grandma Lawrence. Mom told me that she was like a member of the Relief Society before she was ever baptized into the church. Mm-hmm. What are your stories about?
No, I didn't.
No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
I just like this.
Right, you told me she's been a member of, and then, her parents were members of the church, right? So
The Browns,
I couldn't figure that out.
as far as I knew, the Browns were all members of the church.
Yeah. I know. I might have to go.
I don't know if you guys knew this, but the Browns had their lumber company, but Grandpa was one of the first owners of it.
Oh,
Grandpa and his brothers built the lumber company. and they owned
He was
it.
one of the first owners? Then what did he do, sell out?
He sold out.
Reluctantly, he sold out because Elmer Brown went to and bought out their shares of the lumber company, and then he went to Grandpa and says, "Hey, I own all the shares except for yours. You might as well sell to me." And Grandpa was kind of upset about it, but he sold to Elmer.
And I never knew that either.
So it was hard to walk around Roy without my mom knowing what would have been up. We had the lumber company people, the hobby shop, the drive-ins,
Yeah.
So anywhere we went,
Oh, their eyes on you.
it probably happened to you guys a little bit.
Yeah. All the kids from high school knew more about my life than I did.
Yeah.
They thought we lived a great life. I felt normal. I didn't feel like we were special or anything, but I think all the things that we did probably was impressive. Not me, but everybody else.
Oh, now this is just off track. I got to tell you a fun story about. We were having a high school reunion one time. I think it was our 20th or 30th. I can't remember. This guy in our class was kind of a comedian, and so we were doing this kind of like Johnny Carson skit or David Letterman, or in your case maybe Jimmy Fallon type. And so I was one of the class officers, and they had Dan, myself, and Colleen. They're interviewing us, and when they came to me, they go, "Didn't you guys used to have a drive-in theater over there in Riverdale?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, what happened to it?" And I said, "Well, Randy," I said, I let so many of you guys in for free that they had to sell it, and it's now apartment buildings." Kind of true, I guess.
I got to tell you about Mom telling Grandpa to shove it.
Your mom?
Yeah, my mom. The South Dome started leaking from the center.
Can't hear this again.
South Dome started center, and so Grandpa's always do it himself. He's at this time he's 76 or 77.
About your age.
77. So we're up. I think we were both up with him, weren't we?
Yeah.
We're on the tip of the trying to fix this leak, and Mom pulls up in the Cadillac sheet Grandpa had given her, and she yells at him to get down off that roof, and he says, "No, I just got to fix this." And well, you get down here right now. And he went do it, and finally she got mad, and she said, "Shove it!" And she jumped in her car and peeled out. Grandpa looked at us and kind of chuckled.
And that's totally out of character for Mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Hilarious.
Y'all know about Grandpa having the trick horse, right? Chucky.
He had a trick horse.
He had a horse that he had trained to do tricks, and he'd go around and he had a teeter-totter for it, and
He's building a tricycle for it.
yeah, he's building a tricycle, but hunters accidentally shot it, and it lived, but it was mostly blind after it got shot. And I got scars here to show that, because I was riding it when I was No, after it was blind. I was riding. Grandpa had just built the arena for the junior posse, and he says, "Let's try it out." And he got on Long John, his really big horse, and I got on Tucky, the blind horse. And we're riding along, and he decided I was too young to be riding by myself, so I asked for the left side of the saddle. So I untied it, and Grandpa's on my left, Larry was on the right. I untied it, swung it over the horse's head, and kind of hit it in the head.
Spooked it.
Tucky took off at a full run, and Tucky couldn't see the fence, and he just ran into the fence full speed. And I hit the fence head first and come down, and I remember sitting there, everything looked kind of hazy, and all of a sudden the world turned red. And it scared me, and I jumped up and started running, and Tucky took off after me, trying to catch me.
Oh my gosh.
But Grandpa was really sad. I think he spent all night sleeping with Tucky after he got shot. He felt he put so much time into that horse. And
Yeah.
but
Can you tell the story about your mom and the rodeo, the queen?
She was rodeo queen, I think, 3 times. Once in Pocatello, twice in the Ogden area.
And Hooper.
And Hooper. So she was quite good with horses. But after we come along, I never are right again, but
That's our fault.
There's that, I thought you were gonna do the story where she went out there, but she didn't stop the horse the way Grandpa wanted her to stop it. And her turn was over and the other contestants were going. Grandpa says, get back out there.
oh yeah,
The story.
I forgot about that.
Do you know it?
No, I can't remember it. Tell me what you.
Do you want to tell it?
No, you do.
Well, I'm only telling it, but Grandpa told your mom, get back out there and I want you to show them you know how to pull the reins and stop the horse, because I guess that was part of doing it. And she was so mad at Grandpa. She's like, no, it's other people's turn. It's not my turn. And he kept telling her, no, you go show them what. And she was so mad at that point that she didn't care what anybody else thought, because she was mad at Grandpa, and she went out there and I guess she just, whatever she had to do, she landed it, and then she ended up winning. I think you and I talked about that.
Oh, thinking, yeah.
Yeah, so, did she win that time?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
We got some
Pretty
pictures of her.
I just was impressed.
And then Mom, you were gonna do it, but you didn't want to, but Grandpa wanted you to try out.
He wanted me to try out for rodeo queen. It's about 7 but I'm not a horseman. I don't know how to ride a horse. So we had the challenge on the horses. I said, stop the horses about running into the judges.
But you were doing really good at all the interviews.
Yeah, they had interviews at the hotel and different things. We was on the radio and different things like that, but I did do well at all on the horse. I'm not a horseman like Ray was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Grandpa making people do things helped me. My sophomore year, I decided I wanted to go out for football, and I didn't know how to play football, but so I went out for guard, for alignment. And Grandpa says, "You go out for quarterback," and I says, "Football? I can't be quarterback." He says, "You go out for quarterback, or I'm going to go talk to your coach." I knew he would. And so I thought, well, maybe if I go out for halfback, he won't talk to the coach. And so I went out for halfback, and they moved me to fullback, and I played first-string fullback for 3 years. But if I would have played, I would have been on the bench for 3 years.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That was very good.
Did you play football too?
I was on the team.
Were you?
He was really good, but didn't go out his senior year.
Yeah, I didn't. I decided I wanted to wrestle.
Oh, you're a wrestler.
And
He was a good wrestler.
I did pretty good. Was it second city, county?
Did you beat the blind guy?
Well, no, okay. So here's the wrestling story. So I'm doing really good. I took a second in city county, and I mean, I was wrestling like 145 pounds, and I gone down from 160. And but I did that and did the city county fine, and we had a dual meet like the next day after that, and I didn't make weight, and so the coach kicked me off the team. And so I didn't get, that kept me from wrestling that blind guy. Well, he wasn't.
Too much theater food, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I should have gone out for football, I think. My senior.
Any hamburgers from the night before?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And one of the assistants, that was really terrible.
Yeah, the assistant coach was also Lloyd Allen's coach at Weber High. You might have even known him.
Mac Taft?
Mac Taft. Do you remember Mac Taft at Weber High? Anyway, when he found out that Dad was our coach, he says, he's the finest man I've ever coached, But at the end of the year, he says, that coach ruined you guys had the best wrestling team that I've ever seen, and he kind of ruined it. So I was a little bit vindicated,
Yeah.
So, but we had fun.
Yeah. Like I said, we felt like we grew up in Camelot. We had we had one big family. Your family were Grandpa's and Daryl's. Just felt like one big family. We had it great.
Were you guys were old enough for the big Christmas experience at Grandpa's, weren't you? Yeah.
Every Christmas we'd go down the family room.
And those were great Christmases.
I'd love it if you could say a couple things about Grandma Florence.
She loved to read.
She loved what?
To read.
Oh.
She's always reading and taking care of the books for the theaters.
She was the brains of the family, really. Don't you think, LaRue?
She really did.
She really took, kept things going.
Besides,
I can remember counting the money on their big oversized king bed. They'd bring the nice receipts and we'd throw it on the bed and start counting away and bundling it up.
Wow.
yeah, she'd go down to Salt Lake to the, what do you call it, the row where you could,
Oh yeah, the theater's row, yeah, down there.
where she wrote pictures, besides doing the books too.
So she actually did the booking for a while.
She did the books too.
Wow, booked the movies. Wow.
How did she treat you? Like, what was her personality toward you guys?
I'll tell you
Go ahead.
experience I had. We had gone to see Journey to the Center of the Earth, and I just loved that movie. And I come to Grandma's house after the movie, and I spent 2 hours reciting that movie word for word for her. And she just sat there with a smile on her face.
And she's very person because I'm still alive. Okay, now they bought this brand new Oldsmobile. I don't know if you remember this, LaRue.
Oh, this is a bad story.
Brand new, it was just gorgeous Oldsmobile.
Right.
And they went over to the bank to do some banking for the theaters, and this is kind of their fault. They left.
Oh.
Now these are the days where that wasn't a big deal legally. Okay, it doesn't matter. And so I discovered that there's a lighter in those cars.
You can push it in and it'll pop out.
And it pops out, and it's hot. And I started making designs all over the vinyl. I didn't have leather seats back then. Of course, I guess that's what I worked on leather too. But I started making all these fancy
Brand new
designs
car.
on a brand new car.
Oh my God.
And they came out, and they didn't kill me.
And I remember that car always having those pretty designs all over the dashboard.
So she's a very nice person. Very forgiving.
But she will remember.
I remember they had exercise machines in their office. They had the machine with the strap that you put behind you and it wiggle you back and forth.
I remember that too.
And Grandpa got rid of his gallstone, was it, or kidneys? I think it was gallstone. Man, maybe kidney. I can't remember.
Kidney stone, don't you think?
What?
Were they called exercisers?
Kidney
There was an actual.
They've been in the hospital. They're going to perform surgery to take out his gallbladder, I think. And he refused. He got up, got dressed, and they were all trying to keep him in the hospital, and he left. And he went home, got on that exercise machine, and the gallstone went away. And then they had the bench that the head part and the leg part, and then the center part would rock back and forth. So you'd sit on it, you lay down there, and you go.
I always thought my middle name was Good Lord Almighty. because of something, and he'd go, Good Lord Almighty.
But did you have to sit on his lap and watch Lawrence Welk?
No, but we watched a lot of it, though. We'd sit on that big, oversized king bed.
Yep.
And they were the
remember
first
watching
ones in the
Lawrence
family to have a color. I remember going up and watching The Wizard of Oz. That was a big annual thing.
Yes, it was.
Daryl and Nancy had the first microwave that I had ever heard of. They bought this microwave oven, and I remember we were going up to their house in shifts from the theaters and boil water in a paper cup.
Good stuff.
It was kind of fun being born back in the 50s so that we could have seen a lot of the progression of things.
I'm going to stop telling stories, but well, one more. We'd moved from the Cinedome up to the drive-in, but they edited it a little bit, made it R.
Now, this is a movie?
Yeah, movie. Did you say it was a stewardess?
Well, we played at the drive-in. We played the swinging cheerleaders and the hot.
Myra Breckenridge? Probably don't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this is an X, and here's the screen facing the highway. Everybody can see it. And police come to. I don't know what they were trying to do, but there were police cars everywhere. And Grandpa got worried. I got to protect the money, so he took all the money we'd taken in that night and he never could remember where he hid it. So
To this day, we thought it was in his house someplace, like
Well,
buried back in the...
years later, they did find a lot of money behind the books in his bookshelf at his house. We're assuming that's the money from that night.
Oh my goodness.
So who knows what's in that house still? I don't know if you remember Grandpa's house, but that part of that basement wasn't it was just dirt.
Yes.
Back where the furnaces were. And we thought, I wonder what he's buried back there.
Yeah. I wonder why all those cops were parked there.
Oh, yeah, they weren't going to close the movie.
That's funny.
Oh, these are great stories.
Great family.
Yeah.
I hear of other families that have problems, and boy.
Well, I mean, we got challenges and stuff. Everybody's always got people's backs.
Yeah.
I remember Lorraine coming over all the time, and when she would leave, she would dance as she was walking out the door. Just do some kind of
So happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and she made dolls for everybody in the neighborhood, clothes for everybody in the neighborhood.
Her driveway was never fair. Like, she always had somebody. She was a little shy back then, a little bit. And if I saw somebody had parked at her house, I'm like, I came right back home. 'Cause she always had somebody there. Everybody loved her.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, when she died, we was making the funeral arrangements, and was it Myers? Mortuary. And we said, we need to have this in a chapel. We need the overflows and everything, because there's going to be a lot of people come. And they said, oh, no, we've never overfilled this place. And so we reluctantly agreed. And, they have the main area, and they open it up to another main area. And they come close to turning people away. It was all full. Wow. But she had a lot of friends.
oh my goodness.
Well, the same thing happened at Ray and Daryl's. We filled up the chapels.
Oh, yeah.
If you remember.
We did.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
So some good memories.
But Grandma was kind of the person that kept everything stable.
Who was the lady that would entertain you guys on the lawn when your dad was sick?
Okay, that's a totally different family.
Oh.
But I can tell you the story anyway. About Christopher Jacobs. He come across the plains with the pioneers, come into the Salt Lake Valley in 1847. I kind of wondered, how did he come from Norway to be in the church and come into Salt Lake Valley in 1847? And my to Maryland, and he told, when on his mission, I thought he had to have his genealogy. So I went over to the Stake Center and printed out this 100-page booklet of our ancestors, just listing them. And he got up in sacrament meeting, he was asked to speak, and he talked about his ancestors. I don't know how you talk about pedigree chart, but he talked about them. And then one of the ladies in the congregation came up, and she says, I have some family history information about your family. And she had a journal entry from Christopher Jacobs. And it wasn't from him. Somebody in the company wrote it. The camp today. And Christopher Jacobs entertained them by doing somersaults. And later I read in a newspaper article where they interviewed Christopher Jacobs long after the pioneers were here. He's living in southern Utah then. And he says, yeah, the Indians will go over and try to figure out how I was jumping so far. But then before my father died, he was in the Veterans Hospital. And they wouldn't let kids in the hospital back then. So his brother stayed out on the lawn to keep us entertained, and he entertained us by doing gymnastics. And when I heard, I knew gymnastics, but when I heard that my great-great-grandfather did that too, I thought, must be something hereditary there.
Can you do gymnastics?
I took tumbling and gymnastics, but I wasn't really good at it. But I was interested in it.
I just thought of one story. Pautelis. You knew he grew up in Gunlock, Utah. Well, there used to be some trees going down
oh yeah, we
the center of town.
Story.
You know this, don't you, LaRue? And every year around the 4th of July, these kids would take little and put them in all the things, and then light them and wake up the town. And Grandpa decided he wanted to do that.
And he drove supply wagons back to the mines, the gold strike, so he had access
Just
to
to
dynamite.
And what he didn't do correctly was those guys were just using little teeny pieces. He put the whole
In each tree.
In
the whole
each
main
tree.
street.
What happened?
well, he lit them just like they did.
Yeah.
And
He put them all in the trees, and then he lit them as he went out of town again.
And then he saw that what was happening was
Blowing the trees apart.
just blowing all the beautiful
Trees blowing apart.
all the way down to town.
Did he get in trouble?
Well, no, because he saw what was happening, and he beelined it home, jumped back in bed, and people, I guess, for days were saying, "Well, who could have done this?" And he goes, "Well, what about Roy Tullis?" I said, "No, he's a good boy. He wouldn't do that."
He wouldn't have done that.
So I was always tempted to go back to Gunlock and see if there's any old timers that remembered that. Didn't do it though.
One time I was going to California, I was going through southern Utah, and Grandpa said, "Well, stop in Gunlock and say hello." He had a name, I can't remember the name now. And so when we got to Gunlock, we stopped at some business, said, "Do you know where this person lives?" And they said, "Oh yeah, just down the road there at this White House or whatever." So we went down, knocked on the door, and some lady answered the door, and we said, "We're here to see whatever her name is." And they says, "Well, she's right here. You know she's deaf, don't you?" And we says, No, we didn't know that." And she invited us in, and we're she was interpreting for us, and she couldn't remember Roy Tullis, and I thought, that's really weird, she can't remember Roy Tullis. And so we got home and told Grandpa that we visited so-and-so. "Who's that?" I got the name mixed up, and there happened to be somebody there with that name.
Made a new friend.
My goodness.
Wow, this
We were
would be a great video.
So anything else you guys want?
We're done.
Think of anything
Well,
more?
that's interesting, all the things you brought up.
Yeah.
It is. It was nice of you to do all that. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Send this to all my so they can all hear all these fun stories.
I think you guys have seen something that their children haven't seen. I don't think your kids have sat in front of you and listened to these stories.
Probably not.
How could do
Yeah.
that? Yeah, we'll just share this with everyone.
Yeah, we'll send you a copy.
That doesn't sound very good.
I couldn't do that.
I mean, I hear these stories. There were probably 2, maybe 3 that I hadn't heard before, but I only hear them in pieces every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now we hear the whole group of them together, and I know your kids haven't.
Right.
You should do that. They would love that.
Good idea. We want a copy.
Yeah.
We'll get it to you.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
And thanks for dinner.
Yeah. And you got a longer drive.
That's not bad.
As they talked about Camelot, I can't tell you how many times I've heard say with all their heart that they feel like they have grown up in Camelot. They love this family, and this family made them who they are.
Yeah.
That's the way they always describe it, is growing up in Camelot.
Yeah. Yep. I can totally see that. I can totally.
It's really interesting because even all the cousins seem, we're not necessarily close, but we never forget, because like I was living in Arizona one time, and all of a sudden this guy pulls up on a motorcycle. It's James. He just never. People just don't forget.
Yeah.
Mark's just dropped by before, and
Yeah.
the whole family's like that.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, we should do more things together.
Yeah, that would be really good.
Yeah. Yeah. We could just
Well, thanks everyone.